I quote, "If you think about it realistically, people's chests don't keep bouncing around unnaturally while they're playing guitar. If that kind of depiction were in the show, I'd hesitate to let my young son watch it. Whether I can show a work to my own child, that's an important standard to me." Then stop making anime. Get out of the anime industry. Yes, last month, apparently, there was an event where there was a little bit of a talk that was done by Erika Yoshida. For those who don't know who Erika Yoshida is, she is the script and series composition writer for Bocchi the Rock, the first season, and she'll be doing the script work for the second season. Now, in this talk, she does kind of talk about her whole methodology for how she does her work. For those who don't know, script writers, series composition writers, they're typically taking the original work and they're putting it in a format that can then be story told within an anime format. So a lot of the written word, what the person says, all the characters are saying, and with the series composition, kind of the layout itself. During this talk, she said a lot of things that I think honestly can be quoted out of context. And some of it's stuff that really does concern me. To be perfectly frank, she sounds like a Japanese Karen. I'm just going to come out and say it. She sounds like a Japanese Karen. I don't like that this is naughty. I don't like this is here. But there is a lot here where she is being very clear that she's okay with certain things existing, even herself saying, "I'd be perfectly fine with doing an R18 work." A lot of what she's kind of talking about is sort of creating a divide between certain content and who is it available to. And yes, really getting into something that is already very prevalent in the anime industry, which is where they're trying to adapt works to meet certain standards to be a lot more broad in its acceptance. The idea of kind of removing the nastier side of otaku culture, which for a lot of people is extremely concerning, myself included. But I think a lot of what most people are upset about with her talk here is that she kind of phrases a lot of what she removed from Bocchi the Rock's anime adaptation is noise. Things that she feels is inappropriate or doesn't fit the title like she thinks it should fit. And that's where we get into the realm of things that honestly for me personally is disgusting. The idea of feeling that you know better than the original creator, that your work will be better than what they created. But let's be perfectly honest. There was an agreement here made when they made Bocchi the Rock. She even talks about the idea that she worked with the creator. The creator and her and the producers and everybody would sit in a room at some point and she would say, "If you want this to be successful, I feel you should do this. In order to meet this audience, I feel you should do this change right here." Not that there was too much change in Bocchi the Rock, but there is a sense here that there's a little bit of a mightier than thou kind of mentality here, and her own personal beliefs are kind of getting mixed into the work that she's adapting, which, again, is the concerning thing. But again, I don't want to sit here and misquote her, so let's get into the actual article here. Again, as usual, I use machine translation. It does seem like she herself did retweet this article that I'm pulling this from, so it does seem like this is something that is approved by her, at least that she's agreeing that it's allowed to be posted. But let's actually get into it. Just because it's anime doesn't mean anything goes. Wow. Yeah, I can find a lot of people that disagrees with that. And I would argue the reason why anime is successful as it is because literally almost everything goes. Fans are free to interpret characters however they like. And I think it's perfectly fine for an individual to draw or imagine whatever they want. But I feel uncomfortable when the official side spreads things around as if to say, "Here you go, exploit this." Here's right here where you can already get that sense that this lady has sort of a "I know better than you do." And there's a bit of this earlier in the article itself. I just didn't want to get through everything here, where she does talk about her own experience, that she does have a child, she has a family. And I think there is sort of a lot in the earlier moments of this talk where I get a sense that this is a lady that is very afraid of offending people. She's afraid of upsetting people. Essentially the mindset of walking on eggshells all the time because what you might do might cause harm to somebody else, which I do think in some context is a good thing. I mean, the example that she gives is the show Period Guy and his daughter. And the idea there that because the guy understands his daughter very much and her menstrual cycles and whatnot, he's very vocal about it to the harm of his daughter. But I think that there's sort of a massive break here in the idea that there's a direct cause and effect happening with the example that she's giving. Somebody is directly harming somebody else. Where in a lot of what she's going to talk about in a minute here is not harming an actual world person. It's essentially just portraying a story or characters in certain ways. This becomes especially serious when the work, like My Bashi Wishes, depicts teenage girls, because when translated into real-world terms, it amounts to the exploitation of minors. We're just going to go right to the extremes here, apparently, and this is unfortunately kind of the direction they often take here is where nobody can defend this whole thing. So we're going to go with the route of, in order to produce censorship and to okay the fact that we're changing things, let's go directly to the worst case scenario. That way, if you defend this, that way, if you go against what I'm saying here, you approve of this thing. But let's not mix things up here. The process of thought here is that I don't like that they're interpreting the characters this way, and so I want it changed. With Moeba, which is, yes, this is an original work that she was actually working on as the scriptwriter for itself, so she was writing for herself, which is perfectly fine. If that's what she wants to do, if she wants to make sure that her show itself does not do anything that would offend people with her characters that she chose to be minors, that's perfectly fine. She chose to write a story about minors, and that's perfectly fine if she wants to do whatever she wants with it. Just because it's anime doesn't mean anything goes, even if it's drawing. I think it's important to keep that in mind. It's still a minor. No, it's a drawing. You drew a character. Do what you want with it. If you want it to be involved with some sort of serious stuff, do that. If you want it to be involved with violence, you're going to do that. If you want it to be involved with some sort of, harm or something like that, you can do that because artistry and drawing and storytelling is fictitious. It's fictitious for a reason. Again, this is a slippery slope where they're obviously going to point out this because they want you to not to be able to disagree with them. But in actuality, the mindset here is because the characters are drawn and depicted as young, we can't do anything with them because then that would be exploiting them. There is your break there. Not that I want the show that she's making to actually have that, but the fear here is that she can't disconnect in her mind the difference between fiction and reality. She wants to draw them together here. And that's where we get into a very dangerous area where her own beliefs that she can't disconnect fiction from reality is now drawing upon other people's works. How Bocchi the Rock removed noise in order to aim for dominance. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. The anime Bocchi the Rock, which made Yoshida's name widely known, is also a series about teenage girls. But even in adapting an existing manga, she did not compromise on this stance. Yeah, we see that. In the original manga, there's a scene where Hattori-chan gets naked while taking a cold bath. But for the anime, we changed it so that she wears a swimsuit. If Bocchi the Rock were a series that sold itself on that kind of depiction, it would be fine. But I didn't think this was the case. And if we wanted the series to really dominate, I felt those scenes would just be noise. Now, again, this can be very easily taken out of context. I understand what she's saying here. I want to make it perfectly clear. I'm understanding what she's saying here. In her mindset here, I looked at the overall story of Bocchi the Rock for these chapters, and based on my skimming through it, there's only literally 2 scenes that could be somewhat questionable. There's this scene right here, which you can see. Here's the panels right here. She goes and she gets into a cold bath. She puts a bunch of ice inside the bath and she gets in there. And then following afterwards, yes, she gets into her underwear and she plays a guitar in front of the fan. This was the context of the manga itself. In the anime, yes, she gets into there with a swimsuit on, gets inside the water, and then afterwards she's still in the swimsuit and she plays in front of the fan. The other scene that was questionable was the scene where they were at the cafe at the school and they were talking about the idea of selling her in these different outfits and whatnot online. And the first one was her in the swimsuit, and the second was her in the black tape. And in the anime, it depicted both of them, though this one obviously a lot less revealing. It looks more like an actual leather outfit rather than actually being tape, but that's what they were going for there. This isn't an excessively fan service manga. The original creator, that's not what she was going for. And so what she's saying here is that, yes, I didn't feel like overall it was really going for fan service. She's not saying that I chose to remove those scenes or that they chose to remove those scenes. Let's be perfectly honest here. They made that decision. She didn't. They made the decision to remove that because it was noise. Her mindset there is that this is something that is not really necessary and it will possibly push certain people away. If they're watching the show and they get to episode 2 and this scene comes up and she were to get in there and, yes, probably have some fog over her, and then afterwards she's sitting in front of the fan and she's got her underwear on, it might cause some people to go, oh, gross, it's one of those otaku shows, turn it off. She's not talking about global censorship. She's talking specifically in order to get a broader audience here, and for people to watch this show, this is just something that's going to get in the way. It's going to cause people to kind of go, oh, it's an otaku show. not just a general show about girls playing band. I get what she's saying. At the same time, I also have the other side of me that feels like it's disrespectful. To call that noise because this is what the mangaka, this is what she chose to do. This awkward sense that this girl jumps into the tub, just freezing cold, and then afterwards she's playing guitar in front of the fan. It just shows the goofiness of Bocchi's character that she would do something like this, and she would commit to it. Now, to be honest, I don't find this to be that big of a censorship. I really don't. There really isn't much really kind of shown here. It's not going for that, so I kind of agree with that side of her. On the other hand, I would argue this is probably more explicitive. The fact that they have a close-up shot of her crotch right here, this seems worse to me. If this is exploitative, why isn't this? Why isn't this? There's a little bit of a... Really? Am I crazy here? Is this not just as bad that you have a full-on butt shot of her that was not present in the original thing here? I don't know. Again, this was a decision that they all made together. The producers, the scriptwriter, and the original creator. It is technically censorship, and I hate censorship of any kind. But it does seem like her appeal here was to make sure that it is acceptable for a broader audience to make more success. And that was probably what was presented to the original creator. Hey, let's just go ahead and change this right here because then more people accept it and it can get more popular. And the original creator's like, sure, I don't care if that's there or not. That's not that important to me. Take it out. I don't care. And so they did it. That's probably what happened in that boardroom. And yes, this is something that happens with so many series. It's not even funny. Like right now, we have a series called Ruby Rocks that's on right now. And I'm pretty sure they probably made the same decision there. Hey, it's a show about rocks and cute girls. Let's take out these 1 or 2 Pantsu shots in the first like 5 volumes and it'll be a lot more appealing to a lot of people. Okay, do it. It's not that important. The original creator's like, yeah, probably not that important. But I think the way that she's saying it is what kind of bothers me the most. The fact that she feels that it shouldn't be there because she wants it to be a lot more clean. She continues, the original manga was already wonderful. The original creators were very cooperative. The director and staff were working seriously. The music team was fully committed. And Karurira-san was drawing incredibly good art. This was the project that, from the production stage, made me think this can take the crown. But if we left in that kind of noise, it would keep people from watching. Again, she's not wrong, but at the same time, it's still censorship. It's like I can't argue with her from a marketing standpoint and for a more broader acceptance, but you don't have to go that far. You don't have to have her in a swimsuit to do that. She's not showing anything anyways. So many anime have characters in bathtubs all the time and nothing's shown. But you went out of your way to show her ass. You sound counter to yourself. You could have literally just shown that second shot, but no, you had to show her ass first. Tell me that ain't noise. That's a really big noise right there. Sorry. Anyways, moving on. You didn't have to show her groin right here, but you did. This is that whole area where it's so, like, interesting to try to see into the mind of somebody that wants to sanitize things. Like, it's so weird to try to figure out where is your borderline. Like, what is acceptable to you or not? And that could have been a compromise. Maybe she wanted to remove the entire scene. They're like, no, let's just put her in a swimsuit. And they're like, yeah, that's agreeable. That could have been an agreement there. As a side note, I want to point out this specifically, by the way. I see a lot of people that are just quoting this is noise, that she removed noise. Bocchi's Rock scriptwriter said that she removed noise from the original work. This is the context. She finds things that are outside of what she feels like the flow of the show is and the potential audience is noise. Things that are just kind of feel like they're out of place. And yes, again, like I said earlier, I can sort of agree that having one scene where she's taking the bath and another scene where she's got tape on rather than just an outfit, those would be seen as noise to the overall flow of the show. Not that I'm okay with censorship. I see what she's saying. If you think about it realistically, people's breasts don't keep bouncing unnaturally while they're playing guitar. If that kind of depiction were in the show, I'd hesitate to let my own son watch it. Whether I can show the work to my own child, that is an important standard for me. Like I said earlier, then get out of anime. Then get out of anime. Please don't set your show's standards and how you adapt somebody's creative work based on if you want to show your kid. And again, I want to give the context here. She's talking specifically about Bocchi the Rock, and she could have used that as sort of the template if it would be something that she'd want to have on the show. Again, she looked at the overall broad idea of the show itself and said, this doesn't look like a fan service show to me. Let's make it something that could appeal to kids as well. But that's not a good measurement stick. Again, that sounds extremely dangerous to anything that doesn't have just 2 fan service scenes. And the idea of being upset over breasts bouncing around, are we insecure there? I mean, what is wrong there? Moving on further, we get into the area where I think is sort of at the core of why I think she feels this way. And the idea of almost wanting to create a divide between what is available to different groups, different demographics, and different ages. The idea of not having something like fan service in a show that could be shown to kids, making that separation so that they don't run into a problem where anime could face restrictions. I think that's where she's going here. She says, even if 99% of people are fine, if 1% of extreme people do something, I fear anime culture could be wiped out. Precisely because there are so many different kinds of works, we have to maintain rules, moderation, and ethics. It's fine for there to be extreme works or even full-on R18 works. And if I decided to, I think I would happily work on such projects myself. Again, right there, saying I'm perfectly fine with R18 works, and I would love to work on them. But in those cases, there needs to be proper consideration to ensure minors cannot access it. Unlike novels or theaters, which you can choose and purchase yourself, anime on streaming platforms is much easier to watch on a whim. That's why we need to think more carefully about how it's expressed. And I hope that mindset spreads further throughout the anime industry. Again, this is where I kind of feel the flow of her conversation is here in the idea that it's not so much that she doesn't like the presence of ecchi and whatnot in Bocchi the Rock. Obviously she does, because she doesn't like the idea of depicting minors in ways that shouldn't be depicted that way. Again, she doesn't seem to have a disconnect between fiction and reality. She wants to combine the two of them, which I think is extremely dangerous. Again, they're always going to use the extreme examples. They're always going to go into nudity and whatnot. They're never going to talk about anything else. They're always going to focus on that because you can't argue it. And I don't entirely blame her for bringing that up as an argument. It's a foolproof one. It's an easy one for people to understand too. I think the point that she's trying to get to here is that she wants to divide it so that those things aren't in there, so that somebody that could cause problems for the anime industry will raise a fuss. I was watching Bocchi the Rock. It looked like a kid's show. It didn't have a high rating, and then there was a bath scene. Let's change things. She wants to divide it to where you have to go to a gated area where it says you are this age, and then it will have that in it. And yes, acknowledging that in order to get a broader audience and not to be gated, Bocchi the Rock would have to take that out. I know typically whenever I make these arguments, it upsets some people. But I feel personally, in order to be able to stop problems from happening within the anime industry, to stop problems from happening in whatever media that you're into, you have to understand the mind of somebody that could possibly cause damage. I think her heart's in the right place, but how she conveys that and the direction that she takes is problematic. This is somebody that seems to have a problem with disconnecting reality from fiction and seems to want to instill upon her own values upon the works that she's working on. And while I don't think it was that detrimental to Bocchi the Rock, it has me afraid for what she will do in the future and what other works she might mess with. Again, in the end, I want people to acknowledge this. It's not entirely her decision. This was a choice made by the creator and the producers, yada, yada, yada. Now, there has been a lot of reported case, or at least a lot of expressed case through even like adaptations and whatnot, that a lot of creators kind of get thrown to the side and they get ignored. I don't know this is the case. I have no proof that happened here. And it does seem like the original creator did love the work. It was extremely successful. How could you be upset about it? But I think a lot of that has to do with the director. I think a lot of what the director did with this was incredible. And I think a part of it was her doing as well. She was able to take something that is very kind of scattershot of a manga and was able to kind of make it a very flowing series that did very well. But I have to admit that after this whole talk, I'm going to be watching what she's working on very closely. And it does concern me. It does concern me. Because I think because of what Bocchi the Rock was originally, because of the work the director and the team did on this, including her, this did put her in the spotlight. And discussions like this could cause certain people to go, we need to do the same. That's why Bocchi was so successful. They got rid of all of this stuff that's problematic, which again is already technically happening in the anime industry. A lot of it is to do with local broadcasting rules and restrictions. A lot of it could be the idea of trying to go for a global audience. It's already happening. It's been happening for decades. But I'm more stuck on her willingness to be so vocal about, I feel this is harmful for people, and I don't want that. Anyways, I am extremely curious to hear what you guys' take on this is going to be. I'm sure, again, there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to like what she said here. And I do give her massive credits for getting out there and saying that. Some can claim this is a mask-off experience here. This is a, wow, this is bold censorship right here. But as I said before, upon starting to read into the actual entirety of the article, I did start to see more and more context to what she's actually saying, and I wanted to bring that to people's attention because I'm sure this is going to get, like, massively quoted out of context left and right. So that's what I kind of hope to do for you guys, is bring you the full context of what's actually being said. So I hope you guys found this informative and you can make your own conclusions based on it. Thanks for everybody that actually watched this entire video, because I think it's going on for very long. But if you like this kind of content, make sure to support the channel by becoming a member, subscribing to the channel, hitting that like button, become a Patreon supporter. I greatly appreciate your guys' support. Until next time, y'all take care.